Well, a very, very warm welcome to all of those watching in the UK and a very warm welcome to everybody watching all across the world. We welcome you back to the BFBS Pro League on F125 as we round the corner for our fourth round of the season, reaching the halfway point when the season closes off. And today we head to a circuit that's had more name changes than Snoop Dogg. We're talking, of course, about the Red Bull Ring. I've already made Jack have a little bit of a laugh there. It's fantastic. Sorry, George have a little bit of a laugh there. But George, fantastic to see you as always. We start as we mean to go on. How are we looking forward to Australia? Austria.
I think the heat's got to you, Tom, isn't it? 30 degrees and starting to cool down, thank God. No, really looking forward to it. Austria is always one that we look forward to, isn't it? Even in real life, because it's the shortest track on the F1 calendar. So it's always had action. It's always had moments where you sit there and go, oh, okay, is that good? Is that, you don't know what's going to happen, especially up into turn 3 at that hairpin. So I am looking forward to, especially the quality of racing we've had over the last 4 weeks. It's going to be spicy.
You're absolutely right. There's been some fantastic circuit changes at Austria. Of course, started back as the Österreich Ring and then got taken and dropped from the Formula One calendar because of safety concerns. It then came back after a redesign as the A1 Ring and then, of course, taken away from the calendar again before re-emerging in 2014 after being taken over by Red Bull Racing. And, of course, is in, well, as much of the format as you typically see to present day, designed by Hermann Tilke, who is a world-renowned designer of the Formula One calendars and the tracks as well. But 4.3 kilometers is the race distance that we have today. And you mentioned everything that happens in races gone past. Of course, we'll talk about that in the next few moments. But before we get into everything that is about to come your way over the Austrian Grand Prix, why don't we have a quick reminder of the format for these races and BFBS Pro League on F125. You can see it on the screens at the moment. It is qualifying, race, and how the points line up. It's 18-minute qualifying, also known as a short qualifying inside of F125. Drivers will have unlimited runs to set their fastest lap of the session and see who takes home that glorious pole position. And with it will come 3 points for their championship charge. 2 points will go to second place and 1 point will go to third during that qualifying. And we head over to the race. 50% distance, which is 36 laps around the Red Bull Ring. And drivers are mandated to use 2 tyre compounds if they are, of course, running in dry conditions. Should we see any rain, of course, that rule goes completely out the window. And they can, in theory, go for a no-stop race, which is technically possible on F125 on the intermediate tyres. And it says balanced grids. If we have more than 20 drivers competing, you are, of course, they are spreading the grids out to try and make them as fair and balanced as possible, which should lead to some fantastic racing here, George.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, in the past, in real life F1, it is very much a sense of this track is always going to provide some excitement. In real life F1, we're heading there in a couple of weeks anyway, so we're going to expect more excitement there as well. But like I said, even in the league sense, you know, from leagues gone by that I've commentated on, Austria is always one that we've looked forward to, just for the pure fact, especially going up into turn 3, maybe down into turn 6, or even just around the final 2 corners, which are taken at almost flat out speeds. You can see some incredible overtakes around there. So what we could be expecting, I'm seeing a lot of overtakes, but I'm also probably anticipating maybe a big smash.
I think you could be right. Of course, the circuit, 10 corners, 4.3 kilometers. We mentioned that earlier, but a lot of overtaking opportunities. You've got the run into turn 1, the run into turn 3, turn 4, and then those last 2 corners, which really can catch drivers out if they're trying to take them at a little bit too high speed, or of course, potentially go too wide as well. With one of them, maybe trying to go in for an early pit stop. But we've had 3 rounds of the calendar so far. We visited Silverstone, we visited Belgium, and we visited Singapore as well. Why don't you just talk us through some of the highlights maybe from Singapore last week as you were joining us quite gloriously in the commentary box?
Oh, absolutely. Singapore was absolutely madness. I remember right at the end, me and Jack, I think we both had to go for a lie down after Singapore because it was that thrilling. We saw the start of it, Phoenix starting to lead away, and you just saw the gap increasing. But then, we had so many incidents on track. We had George Biel, for example, spinning the car on the Anderson Bridge, and then A was do a perfect little pirouette on that bridge where me and Jack were like, is he going to Austin Powers it a bit, go back and forth? Nope, he was able just to spin it and carry on. We saw Runes we saw Runes, I think, had a little bit of a spin just before the Anderson Bridge. Got not just a drive-through penalty, he also got a 10-second time penalty. Double whammy penalties. It was absolute chaos. But then, you know, I think the biggest moment that we saw of all came within the last 10 laps. Phoenix entering the pit lane for the 2-stop, and suddenly overspeeds in the pit lane, even if it's by 1 kilometer an hour. We said before the start of that race, that pit entry is Tetris. All you have to do is go just that little bit over speed. You're either shooting back off on the track or you're speeding in the pit lane. It's something that happens to everyone. And it had to happen to Phoenix. You could say he was rising from the ashes, but their members kind of went out at the end. But we did see a new winner in Luke Stepney. And on his first race as well, it was really good to see. So coming into tonight, could we see the same again? We'll just have to wait and see. But there's our starting grid there.
Well, it's the championship as it lines up at the moment as well, of course. You have to remember, take this with a slight pinch of salt, because, of course, within BFBS Pro League, the drivers are allowed 1 drop round. So either your lowest scored round or a round you don't attend is taken away from those championship standings. So both Phoenix and Proven, I believe, have missed a race already. So that would reflect as their total points scored, with that drop round being taken as their 0. Adam Thompson has been here for all 3 rounds, but does accrued to 50 points at the moment. It's Rune who stands 4th with 36 to their name. Stepney Luke, we talked about just a moment ago, coming in and taking the their first ever win in their first ever race here in BFBS Pro League. They'll take 26 to their name. It's Chewy with 22, George BL with 18. It's then Edward G. Fleming and BR8115, both on 17 apiece, and Bomber Brown on 16 as well. I hope we can get the bottom 10 as well in the next few moments. And there we go on your screens. It's KS Pryor with 8, Spinsy, who has 2, and then a few drivers by the names of Dewey Vans, Hog Devil Dog, AGL Quadruple 4, and Baconing Pancakes, who are all racing tonight, but yet to score a single point.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, to score a point, but the season is still young, is what we've got to remember. It's only round 4, and we're halfway through the season. We've got 4 more rounds. These guys can catch up. And you've got to remember as well, with the point system, we've got the guys who are missing races, whether for work or whether they're just not available. That lowest finish and the lowest points, that's going to be deducted from their tally at the end of the 8 weeks. So it's still all to play for, but we don't know yet. Phoenix is very much looking like he could be the lead runner here.
Absolutely could be. Let's talk stories just before we get into qualifying. I'm aware that we're starting within the next few moments. Who are drivers to look out for? You mentioned about Phoenix. He's had that fantastic run so far. We've obviously got Adam Thompson scoring some good points over the 3 rounds they've done. I mean, surely money's got to be on Stepney Luke as well. Of course, coming in for 1 race, winning one race, and with a 100% record so far, they'll be looking to try and defend that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know, Luke Stepney will be looking to carry on that momentum. He came in strong last week. He could really start to mix up the grids. So, you know, it is going to be interesting. We need to keep an eye on him. I think we've said this before as well. Runes is another one to look at. Runes, yes, last week he had a couple of issues, but he was able to get himself back into the order. So that's another person we do really need to look at over the course of this evening and into the next few races. Proven as well. Proven himself in Silverstone, almost proved himself in Belgium, because Phoenix and Proven, them two, they're very on par in pace. So we could see battles for the lead there as well. But Stepney Luke, Proven, and Phoenix, that's who we're going to be looking at tonight primarily.
Absolutely right. Why don't we go ahead and have a look at our track map, our track overview for today's racing action. We'll get a nice look at the circuit and a nice opportunity to break down how it all looks. Here we go then. Spielberg in Austria, deep in the Styrian Hills, just over 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles for everybody that uses that difference. And it is 10 corners. The run up towards turn 3 will be a key overtaking point to try and keep an eye on. And of course, who can talk about the number of DRS zones that we have on this circuit? I believe 3 in total. The one run up towards turn 3, the run down to turn 4, and down the start finish straight as well. But on top of that, you also have the element of battery management that comes in with this number of straights.
Well, yeah, that's it. Battery management is going to be a hell of a lot higher this weekend. Again, like you said, with the straights that we've got, the three DRS zones, they're going to be managing that battery because those slow corners are just not slow enough to recharge the battery enough, especially into the last two corners. Like I said before, you're practically flat out throughout those corners. So very much they're going to be watching those batteries, maybe even turning the battery off at times to recharge it so that could pull the field back together as well. But then a lot of people will be banking on safety cars. Hopefully to not only get that cheap pit stop maybe halfway through the race, but able to recharge that battery again. So then when that green flag goes, it's guns to the wall and they go off again. But this track, like I said, it's going to cause chaos, and that's what we like to see.
It certainly will. One to look out for, and one to keep your eyes on your screens. Do not touch that dial, folks, as we get ready to get into qualifying. The short qualifying that we mentioned slightly earlier on, which is that 18-minute session. We'll see a lot of deployment on the straights, a lot of battery management through the second and third sectors. And who knows, with a level of unpredictability that Formula Racing brings, anything can happen this evening. We'll have to keep an eye out for it over 36 laps of Austria Racing. But before that, we are heading to qualifying very, very shortly. That is going to be the moment where drivers have to get their tyres up to temperature. They'll go for as many runs as they can possibly fit in, which is normally about 4 here in Austria, if you can time it about right, as opposed to the traditional kind of 3 or 2, depending on other circuits on the calendar. Talk us through, when you get out for that first run, you have to make sure your tyres are in the window, but there's not much circuit to be able to do it, is there?
No, that's it. I think during qualifying we're gonna see a lot of weaving probably, and because of how short the track is, you're probably going to see a lot of cars backing up into the last couple of corners. So drivers have got to be really aware of that, especially guys who have started hot laps coming into those last couple of corners. So it's all about the awareness of the hot lap drivers, making sure they know there's drivers there, but it's also the awareness of the other cars being, right, we need to stay out of the way, car behind's on a hot lap, which in this game isn't easy because blue flags don't appear in qualifying. So it does make it a hell of a lot harder. But, in qualifying, it is just making sure on that first lap your battery's at 100%, your tyres are nice and warm. Normally when you leave the pits, they're relatively warm because they are in blankets, but obviously they cool down very, very quickly in the pit lane, being at that 50 mile an hour mark. So it is very much a case of getting out, heat up the tyres, warm up the rears, and once they're ready to go, it may take we maybe see a couple of push laps. You might see an out lap, one little kind of warm up lap, and then a push we could see here.
I think you're absolutely right. Get that second preparation lap in effect. Get the tyres to the absolute maximum operating window that they can try and fit in. And you mentioned about making sure you're staying out of other people's ways. And as you get yourselves on those outlaps, we'll probably see a queue of traffic heading up to turn 9. That's just for the final 2 right-handers. But then it kind of flips in inverse when we head in towards that race, because you want to make sure you're on the right-hand side through turn 9, because that is essentially where you peel off into pit road. And we've seen it before where drivers are trying to go too wide, or maybe unintentionally going too wide through turn 9. And obviously they're either forced to stay out for an extra lap, which can, it doesn't have dire consequences, no refueling allowed in Formula 1 for many, many years, or they turn across anyway and hope the other car kind of gets out the way.
Yeah, that's it. Again, it's all just about awareness now. It's very much a case of they've got to be aware of where the cars are positioned, especially in a racing circumstance, because also drivers who are coming into the pit lane have to remain to that right-hand side, because the safety car line and the pit lane line starts just before turn 9. So you want to stay in that white line. So again, you've got to be aware of that going in. If you're side by side, or if you've got a slower car ahead that's about to pit and you're overtaking them, it's then making sure you stay on that left, because if you go into the right, you could collide with them, then you've got a pit, and your race is practically over at that point. So again, it's all about awareness now.
It really is. Short circuit, and lots of awareness, lots of management, both tyres, battery, and the entire race in general. But it's so much to look forward to. And we've seen incidents over the season so far where, if we can cast our minds back to Silverstone, that lap 1 incident that happened right off the grid where we had a spin and they managed to come back with the help of everything else around them. We have to cast our minds back to 1999 as well. Not many of us will be alive to remember that, but it was, of course, Mika Hakkinen recovering from that opening spin on lap 1, went on to actually finish on the podium in the 1999 Austrian Grand Prix. So it can be done here. with the use of slipstream, with the use of the management of the battery. So not all is lost should we see an opening lap drama. But as we said, that's all to come in the race situation. We're going to throw over to qualifying, where we've got drivers ready to take to the racetrack. So here we go then. A lovely sunny day in the Styrian Hills. The Austrian circuit about to come alive with engines and crowds cheering nonetheless. It is going to be some fantastic racing. The circuit having some of the biggest elevation changes on the Formula One calendar, just eclipsed by Spa-Francorchamps, 102.2 meters, just a country across. But here, nonetheless, it is a really strict track limits discussion that we're going to have over this qualifying session, because one small runoff and you've got to go again.
That's it. Yeah, you could say the hills are alive with the sound of V8 engines is what you could say now while we're in Austria. And yeah, exactly. Going that little bit wide, it could cost you so much time, especially, you know, with track limits around here. Track limits, especially coming out that last corner, drivers got to be really, really careful. We've seen it in real life F1. We've seen it in some of the other leagues, as we see cars now leaving pit lane, getting out as early as possible to be able to set these laps. You can see quite a few drivers now exiting pit lane and absolutely going for it. But yes, track limits is still a massive thing here, because all four wheels off the track, even by just a millimetre, that's your lap ruined, and then you'll have to go again, or you have to dive into the pits and hope one run will be enough.
Absolutely right. And I wish the hills were alive with the sound of V8 engines. Unfortunately, the 2025 regulations just giving us the 1.6 litre V6s backed
Did
up.
I say V8?
You said V8, which I wish we had. The noise of a V8 engine is unmatched. I mean, you know, talk about V10s and V12s in years gone by, but you know, at least in modern day, maybe we can hope for V8s within the not so distant future. We mentioned earlier, the opportunity is certainly there to get those 4 runs in here in Austria, just to, because of how short the circuit is. And we mentioned 4.3 kilometers or so, but also the opportunity that, you know, it is about, well, just over a minute lap time in grand totality. So it is right on a knife edge. If you're able to do 4 consistent laps, you might be able to pull one out of the bag.
Well, that's it. Yeah, like we said, so you see here now, we're looking at Adam Thompson coming around the final corner, and we have 16 minutes of qualifying remaining as he crosses the line. So it is possible to get 4 runs here, absolutely. But it just all depends on if the tyres are up to scratch and if you've got the battery performance. As I think I lagged a little bit there. Whoops. But yeah, we're looking on board now with Rudes heading down, heading down the back straight. You can see on the screen there that yellow bar on his steering wheel there. That is his battery deployment. He has used over half, and we're not even halfway around the circuit. So that really gives us an idea of how much these drivers are using their batteries and using them till there is absolutely nothing left around here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course, the 3 main long straights that actually come at you before turn 4 even hits. You head through 5, 6, 7, and 8, and an opportunity to recharge the battery before throwing the car in to 9 and 10 here, and kind of praying it sticks for the most part. Opportunity to flip the wheel in and use the F125 physics to your advantage. But it will be Runes that goes fastest at the moment, a 104 at 698, but it is proven that goes faster at the moment at 104.2. So lots of opportunities to even go faster as the track develops. We'll start to see some more heat getting into the circuit. It's a lovely sunny day. These Pirelli soft tyres will be working to their utmost advantage. More lap times coming in across the board. Bomber was in a 105.1. It's Hog Devil Dog with a 105.38. Aidan Sebney Luke, of course, last week's race winner, is there with a 104.5. So steps into 3rd place at the moment.
That's it, yes. Really starting to show what he's about. I had a conversation with Bomber actually earlier, and he's feeling quite confident around here. He was getting close to Runes this time. We see Phoenix now going to the top of the timesheet. It's a 103.8, finding 0.4 of a second on Proven there. So again, we've got there the top 4. And it's a couple people watching. Look at that, Bacon in Pancakes having a slide out of turn 9. That's the lap gone. I think it was on his push lap, but his battery is full, so he's able to carry on going. I think he might have done a double warm-up lap there. So he's going to push again. But the problem is now he's got to be really careful with, oh, it's a snap and he goes off the road. It's because he had the warm tyres. The warm tyres from where he spun, he just put a little bit too much throttle onto the entry of the corner as he was coming out of it. And yeah, just lost the back end. So that probably now he's going to come back into the pits most likely, or he's going to carry on pushing. He's open DRS, so I'm guessing he's still pushing just to get that banker on the board.
Absolutely right. And you mentioned the overheating of the tyres, and turn 9 and turn 10 is that crux zone of the lap. You have to try and hope that it sticks, and unfortunately for themselves, it didn't, and then the same happened again heading in towards turn 1. So that is lap done, and potentially a set of tyres thrown in the bin. They won't be able to use them, at least to the degree that you'd hope they had the speed for. Dewey Evans here on a lap making their way up to turn 3. It was a very cautious approach through turn 9 and turn 10, and not typically the run that you would like to see. I would have expected them maybe a little bit faster to prep up this opening lap. They are burning the battery down towards turn number 4 and using the DRS to their advantage, a little bit wide into the right-hander, but opens up the opportunity to run through 5 and 6. This will be the most notable part. This is where you typically will make the most time on your lap, depending on how well you can take this double left-hander. As we get the beautiful spectator cams, getting all of the shots of the cars running through the right-hander now of 8, up towards the final 2 of 9 and 10. What can Dewey try and set down on this occasion? They'll try and throw the car in for 9, hope it sticks. It does so on this occasion. Little correction of the steering wheel, again through 10, a little bit wide. You can attack that curve as much as you like, and they'll run up towards the line. What will the time be? It's a 107.578.
Yeah, very good lap there. Since those last couple of corners, we did hit the tyres squealing a little bit there. I don't know whether he locked up slightly, maybe just as he was braking into the last corner. You don't need a lot of braking, though, into that last one. It should just be tap of the brakes and turn and put your throttle back down. But no, a good banker lap there by Dewey. I think you know, we could see him just dropping down. I think he maybe sat there thinking I could do a bit better. But hopefully we'll see that as he comes on to the other runs. We're looking at Proven then on an out lap. Again, that outlap is crucial. Now, Runes then, round the final corner, and we've gone back to Proven. As you can see, he's just, again, warming up those tyres. Again, like we said, it's just these soft tyres as well. You've got to remember, with the heat of the track, they're going to burn quickly. So, realistically, you can only get maybe 1 or 2 runs on this tyre before they're pretty useless in qualifying, because they will not have as much speed. So, Proven then starts the lap and into turn 1, wants to get nice and tight into the apex, does so and gets a good exit, not hitting that sausage curb there. You don't want to hit that. That can really unsettle the car. We saw that just a few moments ago. Now they'll run on to turn 4, up the hill, and brakes at around the 75-meter mark. Lovely. You want to be about second gear, close to that apex, and a good exit. DRS open, down the back. So we're looking at a replay here of Baker Package. You see, it's just slid as he went around the corner there. He kind of drifted it. Very good to kind of hold on to it. Proven then into turn 4. Keeps it nice and tight. Heard a bit of tyre squealing. Maybe just where it's kind of just turning a little bit too much. Into turns 6 and 7. Getting nice and close onto that curb. And again, close to the curbs on the outside. And just getting that nice run into turns 9 and 10. This is where we want to watch then. Wants to get nice and close to the apex curb there, but not cut into the pit lane. Dabber breaks around the final corner, goes a little, keeps it within the track limits. That's where I said we need to keep an eye on. Opens DRS, crosses the line, and I don't know whether that was an improvement or not.
It was by that
cut away a bit too quick.
It pulls them close to Phoenix, just 21 thousandths of a second. Separating both Phoenix and Proven at the moment. They're both on 103.8s as we watch Edward G. Fleming here making his way out of the exit of turn 5 and into that double left-hander of 6 and 7. Again, just running as far wide as he can, but that's a little bit too wide on this occasion for Jet Fleming. He hasn't invalidated his run. The game hasn't told him so. He will be able to continue going, although it probably won't be the fastest lap that we'll see today. We'll see if he does commit to the run. He does through turn 9 and then in towards turn 10. Oh, late decision there. To enter in towards the pits, and typically I think that won't probably stand when it comes to the race session proper. The pit entry does start before turn 9. You can see it on your screens at the moment, just about here. That white line starts, and you have to stay to the right-hand side of it. We're watching Stepney Luke, last week's race winner, through the final corner, and again charging up towards the line, dumping what is left in that battery. And they'll put themselves 4th fastest. It's a 104.263. They're still looking about 4.5, well, about 4/10 off the back of both Phoenix and Proven. But as the track continues to develop, they might be able to find something in their locker.
That's it, yeah. We've got 9 minutes remaining, so it's enough time to come into the pits and get another set of the soft tyres on. So we probably won't see the soft tyre too much in the race, because I think they only get around 3 sets of the soft tyre. altogether. So we probably will be seeing the medium and the hard compound tyre in the race. But for qualifying, it's soft all the way. But Luke Stepney, again, I think our top 5 are all the people that we said we want to be watching today. Adam Thompson, another one we need to keep an eye on for the pure fact that they are keeping the racing and keeping it close. So this top 5, it could look good for the race. Oh, Stepney Luke with a problem there. It looked like he got too much on the curb and the back end just kicked out as he tried to correct it. Luckily, he wasn't on a push lap, I don't think. So must have been making his way back. You can see slowing down now. 2 cars just about to come across, and then he'll come back onto the circuit. We look now at Chewy then. Chewy's going to come around the final corner. He is on a push lap. Entered 6-second mark, keeps it on the track, has a bit of a slide, opens DRS, going to dump all the battery. What's it going to be for Chewy? It's P8, 104.6. But yeah, Stepney Luke, I think it's thankfully he was on an in lap by the looks of it. But if that was a quali lap, I think he would be quite frustrated there.
I think there'll be an element of worry in the back of his mind now, of course, as he headed through what was turn 7. It's so easy. You're dumping the throttle to open up turn 8 and the straight down towards turn 9. And if maybe you just touched a rear tyre into the grass, and it's so easy, the minute that rear tyre wants to spin up, your car is going to be sent around, unfortunately. You run at typically very low wings here in Austria. You want to open up as much straight line speed as you can. We watch on board with Chewy. It looks to be going potentially for another lap here. The battery looks to be recharging. No, they're backing off through turn 6 and in towards turn 7. But with 7 minutes left in the session, certainly an opportunity to at least go for 2 more runs here in the Styrian Hills. We saw them get a lovely dose of slipstream off another driver at the exit of turn 10. But the dirty air through 9 and 10 might have hampered them more than it would have helped them, but in towards the pits nonetheless, and doing the perfect pit entry, as demonstrated by the lovely and glowing pinky purple car. We watch on board with Runes now. They're making their way down towards turn number 4 at the end of this end of this straight, where the speed trap is, so we can see who the fastest through that sector of the circuit is. But of course, playing on controller, which, you know, Austria is not the easiest circuit to handle on a controller. You want the ability to be able to throw the car into these corners, you know, the flicking meta that it has become within F125, and it's doing rather well to keep up with those that are on wheel.
Yeah, that's it. I had a little go earlier on, actually. On my, I normally use a wheel. I was on a controller earlier because I've currently got the flight sim set up, so racing isn't on my agenda at the minute, and it was difficult trying to just get into the apexes. It really was not easy. We saw Runes then. I think he abandoned his lap because he went into the gravel on the exit of turn 6. So he abandoned the lap, so he's going to try and get in and try and get 1 more push lap. Any of the cars now, if they want 2 push laps, they'll have to do a double warm-up. Hog Double Dob goes a little bit quicker, 104.7, puts him up to P9 in that purple and white machine. As we look at KS Pryor now, coming out into turn 7. But it looks to be that he hasn't used too much of his battery, so it looks like he's kind of, he's half shifted. So he's not pushing yet. He'll probably push on the next lap. Nope, he's going to come into pit lane instead. So a lot of the guys now going to come into the pits, change the tyres, and hopefully get 2 more runs. But we're going to either see a double push or we're going to see 2 warm-up laps in this last stint of qualifying with just 5 minutes to go.
Absolutely right, and it's one you'll have to try and keep an eye out for. You can, in theory, we said earlier, go for those 4 runs, but unless you were out about, well, let's say 2 minutes ago at this point in time, you probably aren't going to get 2 more runs in at this point. But we will see drivers leaving the pits around the 2.5 minute mark. That'll be the typical or ideal situation on when to leave the pits. We're watching ball with Hog Devil Dog now. Again, charging up the batteries. I think he is going to go again. This might not give him the opportunity to go for 1 final run when the track is at its optimum, but comes through turn 10 nonetheless. We'll open up that rear wing, the drag reduction system. The charge down towards turn 1 begins. We watch here with Adam Thompson, who's on an outlap, making their way through turn 6 and turn 7. They'll have a car in front of them. That's either going to be either Chewy or CB8115. I believe that is going to be maybe CB just in front of them, but just getting their tyres up to temperature, maybe going for that double preparation lap as well as they weave to get as much temperature through the tyres, essentially scrubbing the tyres as best they can, which generates that heat through the rubber. They will try and go for the fastest lap of the session.
That's it, yeah, so here he comes then. Adam Thompson coming out the final corner. DRS open is now going to push. He may even go for a double push here with the time that we have left. Hits that apex beautifully. into turn one with a lot of speed coming out the exit, and then it's just this DRS straight up the hill into turn number 3, and you can see he's using the curb to his advantage here, trying to get that little bit of speed boost. I think he locked up a little bit into turn 2 by the sound of the tyres, or he's just scrubbing them just to try and get that little bit of extra speed. Down the back straight then, DRS open, deploying the battery as much as possible on the run into turn number 4. Wants to keep it nice and tight. I think there's a little bit of a slide on the entry there, just hitting a bit of too much curb, but could that help him? Probably not, as they go into turns 6 and turn 7. Doesn't want to hit the gravel on the outside, keeps it nicely between the curb and the track to make sure he doesn't invalidate. Same again on the exit of turn 8. Now on the run to turn 9. Push in as much as you can, deploying a little bit of battery into the final 2 corners, hits the apex and gets a nice bit on the outside, not taking too much of the track. Round the final corner, he's opening DRS, they're using the deployment of the battery as much as you can, crossing the line. Now it's P3, 103.968, a good lap there, but wants to now cool down, recharge the battery and possibly go for another push lap.
I think that is going to be what they'll try and encompass. They are certainly, I think, too late at this point to be able to go into the pits and get a fresh set of rubber on their car. We watch a ball with Chewy, 6th fastest at the moment, a 104.3. They are burning some battery, but they are starting to recharge. So again, I think this could be a preparation lap or just a, well, cool down lap essentially for that car before going for one final run, should they wish to do so. We'll see where they make their decision here. I think they are staying to the right-hand side, so this could be a pit entry. It is going to be a pit entry. So unless they manage to work the pit route to their bones, it might not be another run for themselves. Edward G. Fleming now making their way through turn number 4, opening up in towards 5, 6, and 7. The long left-hander, which again is so easy to get wrong, where so many of these corners are right-hand turns and a little bit of a trip into the gravel. They do see him backing off. Makes sense. Get the battery recharged and hope that they've got enough to try and go again in terms of fuel level, which at this point in qualifying, you will be running the absolute minimum you could afford to run on these cars, typically about 2.7 laps or so, which gives you enough for about an outlap and maybe 2 push laps should you need it, if you've saved, that is, on your outlap indeed. Dewey Evans here, making their way through turn 6 and turn 7. Lovely, hugging the apex of turn 7 and again through turn 8 as well. This is looking absolutely spectacular. 2 more corners to try and contend with. But he has got traffic in front of him, a little bit wide in towards turn 9. I wonder if that's a visual distraction in front. Again, wide through turn 10. That might not be the most optimum strategy, but up towards the line, can they improve nonetheless? No. It's 0.7 of a second slower than their previous best. That will see them stay 14th fastest. We've got just over 60 seconds left in this session. George, who's your prediction on?
I think Phoenix will take the pole here. He's on an outlap, so he'll be able to do, I think he's just coming around the last couple of corners now, so it is probably going to be Phoenix in this race, but Proven really can, maybe pull it out the bag a little bit, as we see Chaos Pryor coming across the line, a 104.2. That will be the end of their qualifying now then, as they come up around turn 1. But the money at the minute, I think we need to look at Phoenix, Proven, and Adam Thompson here, because it's going to be a real hot one. And I don't just mean by the weather. Stepney Luke again, he's not too far off the pace. Can he just find a few more tenths? We look at Phoenix now starting the lap. If Luke Stepney can find just a couple more tenths, this could be interesting. And I'd say turn 1, when we get into racing, it will look spicy as Phoenix just goes purple into sector 1.
Absolutely right. It's that top 5 that we have to keep an eye on at the moment, unless we see a miraculous recovery from any of our other drivers. Adam Thompson could not go faster, so into pit road they go, along with Runes. So it's now down to just the top 2. Stepney Luke goes 4th fastest in terms of total time, a 104.171. So only 2 more drivers left in contention to try and take pole position here. Through turn 7 goes Phoenix. He's up by a 10th and some change as he makes his way through turn 8. 2 more corners to try and contend with. He's got a little bit left in his battery. He'll try and flick this in as much as he can and does so wide through the exit of turn 9. Invalidates his run. That's not going to be consequential. Proven now has an opportunity to try and steal it away. Up towards the line. Can they go faster? Yes, but not enough. Phoenix takes pole position.
Oh, it could have been heartbreak for Phoenix. Just look at Bomber coming around the final corner. What could Bomber do? Could Bomber steal it away? Of all people, can he do it? No, not quite. Just goes 2 tenths faster. It's not quite enough to get into the top 10, unfortunately. But it could have been heartbreak for Phoenix at that point with the invalidation. But just does enough on his last run to take that pole position. What a qualifying. This race is going to really heating up now.
Well, we said it was going to be close, folks. I wasn't quite sure it was going to be that close in terms of qualifying. It was that moment at the end where Proven improved, but just by 0.02 of a second. It wasn't quite enough to take it when all is said and done. So Phoenix will start from the front row of the grid. Will start from pole position on the grid, but also claim 3 crucial points for their championship charge here, George.
Yeah, 3 crucial points. Remember, in qualifying, 3 points for pole, 2 points for second, 1 point for third. That 3 points at the end of the season, it could be costly. You know, those 3 points could really help because this title fight is already starting to spice up at this halfway point. We've still got 4 weeks to go, TK. What is going to happen? We don't know, but this is going to be incredible.
It certainly is. We've got so much more to show you coming up over the next few weeks as we see some replays here on your screens. This was Stepney, well, that was Stepney Luke taking a trip through the grass and the gravel. This was Baconing Pancakes having a bit of a mare through turn 10. That was Stepney Luke. I think the original story that saw him end up at the gravel at the extremities of turn 8 and invalidate or ending what was any hope of that run. And again, Baconing Pancakes just having the kick out of all kickouts, making his way through turn 10. These were some of the dramatic moments, and that was just when cars were competing against themselves here, George. It all is going to change when we head into that 36-lap race. The opportunity to go side by side through so many of these corners where the grass, the gravel, the track limits are so close, but thankfully, opposite to Singapore, no walls to contend with.
Yeah, no walls to contend with this week, luckily. So you've got just that little bit of breathing space. Yes, it's gravel. Yes, it's going to slow you down, but at least your race isn't going to end if you hit the gravel, unlike Singapore. But no, honestly, that qualifying was chaos, and it's going to prove it into the race as well, where we could see these mistakes. Just getting these curbs are treacherous. You jump on the curbs, you're going to spin it. But hey, all I'm saying is that I think we need a drink. I think the viewers should take a drink with this heat because we've got some action coming up.
We certainly do indeed. Don't touch that dial, folks. We will be right back for 36 laps around the Styrian Hills. We'll see you then. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 4 of the BFBS Pro League here on F125. We have just seen some very thrilling qualifying action, and now it's time for the main event. It is the race, 36 laps around the Styrian Hills, around the Red Bull Ring, as it's now known. George, it's going to be some fantastic racing. A circuit that is narrow at the best of times, of course, run in MotoGP amongst other races as well. Trying to fit 2 Formula One cars side by side through some of these corners doesn't always end well.
No, that's it. I mean, going into MotoGP, we've seen some pretty hefty accidents in MotoGP. Going back, I think it was around 2020, 2021, we saw it up into turn 3. That's why if you look on the track, there is a chicane part just off the side of the track on the run to turn 3. Obviously, F1 doesn't use that. I think F1 should. I think it could maybe spice it up a little bit. But you've got that section of track there because of that. And going back into F1, again, what you're seeing and what we have seen in the past, whether that be in esports or whether that be in Formula One itself, it's those battles up into turn 3. Last year, for example, Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli into turn number 3, colliding. Just Kimi Antonelli not quite getting his braking point correctly at the start of the race, clattering into Max Verstappen. Both of them out on the spot. So yeah, it's going to be thrilling.
You're absolutely right. You talk about incidents that have happened over the course of the season. We see the formation lap just making its way around. The opportunity now for the drivers to get themselves accustomed, get the tyres up to temperature before the race does start in proper. But you mentioned that incident between Verstappen and Antonelli last season out. You've got to remember as well, 2016, where title rivals Hamilton and Rosberg collided on the final lap. It was absolutely stunning. And, even further back, 2002, where Barrichello was told by Ferrari to hand victory to Michael Schumacher, which was obviously one of the biggest team order controversies during its day. Obviously now slightly more common. As we head into the more team dynamic that we've seen in recent years. Obviously, talk about McLaren in that sort of aspect. But the possible race strategies on your screen there for the briefest of moments is medium, hard, hard. We are expecting potentially the 2-stop to be the fastest, although 1-stop is achievable as long as they make that mandatory tyre compound change as we head into the race. They can start on one tyre, as long as they switch to another, the game's the game.
Game is game. As long as they switch to the other, that's all that's going to happen. I think there was even a 4-stop strategy popped up there. Starting on the medium, go into the hard, then back to the medium, then onto the stop for the end. Maybe that could be a safety car strategy. We could see that happen. So we'll just have to wait and see there as we see the cars now starting to line up onto the grid, getting those tyres nice and warm, doing those burnouts just to make sure that the rears are grippy and ready to go. As we see quite a lot of the cars starting on the medium tyre. Adam Thompson going a little bit over his grid spot. You just saw there being pushed back. That's going to be a little bit of a hindrance to the start of the Grand Prix there for Adam. But yeah, anything can happen now as the last few cars get into the grid spots.
That they do then. 14 cars on the grid here this afternoon. We await the starters' orders. We wait for that green flag to fly. There it is. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 red lights. And the lights go out, and we go racing. Jump start at the back, as you said, from CB8115, but in towards turn 1. The lights were delayed, but 2 by 2 they go. In towards the opening corner, Phoenix holds the lead. Proven still in second, but dropping down the order further back. Cog Devil Dog and Edward G. Fleming haven't had the best of starts there. CB's been disqualified right off the very start for jumping the start. I can only assume maybe track limits violations, but as they head up towards
contact!
What is turn 3? Contact to the back of the field, or in the mid-pack of the field. I think it was KS Pryor having a little scrap side by side, and it is going to be up towards turn 4 now. It's Stepney Luke gets passed by Runes in towards the braking zone. Late on the brakes goes Stepney Luke down the inside, trying to look past Adam Thompson. Can he try and sniff a look down the inside? The outside of turn 5 will come a calling, but he can't quite hang it. Adam Thompson hanging on to third for dear life.
Oh, what a start. Disqualifications, a jump start, and so many near collisions at the start here. What a start that we've seen to the start of this Grand Prix. Stepney Luke and I think it was Adam Thompson really going toe-to-toe here. Chewy's having a look on the back of Runes as well as we come to end the first lap. Phoenix from Proven, Adam Thompson, Stepney Luke, Runes, Chewy, Pryor, Spinsy, everyone very close together. I'd love to know what happened right at the back, though, however. to see what was going on there, because it just looked like a couple of cars went around. Edward Fleming just made a move. We look at Proven now as we see Phoenix having a bit of a lock-up into turn number 3, as CB8 has now apparently retired from the session as well, is saying. He's been disqualified, I'm pretty sure. As we run then down into turn 4, Proven trying to catch up to Phoenix, but Phoenix now starting to pull a little bit of a gap now. And Stepney Luke and Adam Thompson have swapped positions as well, and I think they're still side by side.
They certainly are indeed, as they make their way at the exit of turn 5 in towards turn 6 with the front 2. Both Phoenix and Proven breaking away here in the early stages of this race. They'll have an opportunity, of course, to maybe work together to pull themselves forward. Each and every second counts here in Austria. We look slightly further back.
Whoa!
A little spin there from Proven. The rear end picks out through turn 9, and that'll throw him right into the grasps of Stepney Luke and Adam Thompson. It will surely come a calling in the next few moments, but Phoenix now has an opportunity that never thought would come his way. 1.8 seconds to the advantage of Proven, and it's so easy. If the tyres aren't up to temperature through turn 9 and turn 10, well, we just saw what would happen.
That's it. You know, it's just what can happen in Formula 1, and we're seeing it as we look at a replay now. You just see, tries to enter, the tyre's not quite warmed up, the medium needs a couple of laps, and there's contact there with Chewy and Runes as well. As we look at Adam Thompson and Stepney Luke, they're side by side going down the back straight. DRS open, you can have a look at Runes. Sorry, I haven't tried to go, I think he might have a look at it. No, he's going to sang back for a little bit. But it's corner after corner, we're seeing action upon action. That rear view camera now just seeing Rune starting to pull away from Chewy for a bit, but it's what can happen in this one corner. Proven went from being in DRS to being out of it and now playing catch up.
Absolutely right. Stuck about 1.5 seconds to the disadvantage of Phoenix, about 2.5 seconds or so up the road from Stepney Luke. So somewhat in no man's land here in the race. He doesn't have the opportunity to get the rear wing open, unlike everybody behind him, maybe with the exception of Stepney Luke. It looks like Dewey Evans had a bit of a mistake coming out of turn 6 into turn 8. They found themselves in the gravel. You can see that on the track map at the bottom side of the screen, trying to turn the car around. And they are just getting themselves back facing the correct direction, but they will be hoping and praying surely for a safety car now to bring them back into this race. We spoke earlier about the opportunity the race provides to come back in and contact between Spinsy and KS Pryor. And KS Pryor almost certainly trying to miss their braking zone in towards turn 3, slamming into the side of Spinsy. Thankfully, Spinsy doesn't get any damage from that. They do make themselves into 7th place and an opportunity to stick right onto the back of Chewy here. KS Pryor, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a little bit of front wing damage from that. The cars are so volatile to contact at that that portion of the racetrack. As we see Dewey Evans dutifully into pit road.
Yeah, that's it. Dewey in probably just to try and change the tyres. Must have scrubbed the tyres off quite a bit there. So, you know, it has to get this. Bomber gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. We said track limits was going to be a big thing here. Bomber the first one to go over it 3 consecutive times. And now we'll have to try and find a 3-second gap near the end of this 36-lap race. That's what he's going to be hoping for, is to get that gap to be able to stay within the top 10. But that's it. It's very much a case now as Dewey comes in. It'll be hoping for a safety car, because looking at it, Phoenix isn't too far from Dewey's tail to lap him in the lap number 5. As we have a look at Chewy going very deep into turn 3, almost hitting the back of Runes there, able to keep control of the car. DRS open for him. What is he going to be able to do? Probably not a lot, because Runes has got DRS as well, so it cancels itself out with just be using the battery. Right now, it's probably just a waiting game and waiting for someone's battery to run out before his.
Absolutely right, and a lot of drivers will favour just sticking in the chain at the moment, of course, waiting for those initial round of pit stops to come our way, and that is when we'll see the gloves come off from a lot of the drivers and open up the attacking, the aggressiveness that we can see here in Formula 1 as they head into turn 4. We saw the potential for a couple of overtakes, the potential for a couple of dive bombs as well, none coming this early on in the race. We eclipse on to lap 6 of 36, approaching 1/6 of race distance here. It goes by oh so quickly with the short lap times that we do tend to see here at the Red Bull Ring. In towards turn 1, we watch on board with Runes. He'll have Adam Thompson and Stepney Luke for company in 3rd and 4th respectively. Just behind him, Chewy still in DRS, as is Spinsy and KS Pryor. So they're, 6 drivers all close together at this moment in time. But we've got to just make sure that everyone makes their braking point correctly. Because we saw that earlier move into turn 3, where it's so easy to go late on your brakes. Any wrong move, either your front wing's damaged or you're taking someone out of the race with you.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing with these cars. You've really got to be careful on the brakes and making sure that you give that room. It's the same in any motorsport, really. But with Formula One, the aerodynamic advantage, if you lose a bit of that wing, you're going to feel it, especially around here with the Monza level of downforce. I think it's probably the best way of putting it. Those very low front and rear wings, you're going to feel it. So it's going to make trying to get past, not just getting past them, but trying to catch up to the car ahead even harder. And the car behind is going to come back at you at a rate of knots that you probably weren't expecting.
You're absolutely right. We're starting to see maybe some developments in terms of DRS. KS Prime has been broken out of that 1 second window by Spinzy and actually continuing to fall further down the order. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some damage on that Lean Green Racing machine that sits, well, down in 8th place at the moment. They've got Bomber for company, just 2.5 seconds to their deficit, but also with a 3-second penalty to their name. You watch the rear wing of Adam Thompson here. They make their way down towards the 4th corner. Roon's still well and truly in tow with Chewy and Spinzy, making it a 5-car fight at the moment. Makes it, I think, potentially a 6-car fight as well, with Stepney Luke still sitting pretty in 3rd place. We have to talk about Phoenix, and we've talked about him quite a lot over the course of the race so far, how he's managed to pull away from that earlier spin from Proven. But it's so easy to get into the mindset of, oh, I'm in the lead, I'm going to back off a little bit here. But actually, over the course of the last 4 or so laps of racing, he's continued to build that advantage further forward. But should we see a mistake from himself, it'll be more easily recoverable later down the line.
Well, that's it. To be honest with you, we've seen this with Phoenix over the last couple of rounds, where even though, yes, he's got a manageable gap, he's going to carry on pushing. He doesn't take his foot off the throttle for anything. He's going to carry on pushing, getting that gap, because at the end of the day, it's going to benefit him when we come into the pit stops. If he can get a pit stop level gap, which you probably won't see with this kind of 50% race. As we have a look now, Adam Thompson's going to have a look on Stepney Luke into the hairpin. It's getting tight. He's going to try and keep him on the track, almost pushes him off the track, gives him enough room though, allows him to go by. He's going to have a go with the DRS instead. Running with Runes now. We're looking from behind the paraffin. We see Adam Thompson having a look. He cuts back in, decides this isn't the time. He's going to save the battery and save the DRS there. But no, absolutely, Phoenix will just carry on pushing, hoping to just get a significant gap. So when it comes into the pit stops, he has a little bit more leeway, especially if he goes for track position. If Proven decides to stay out for another lap and goes for the undercut, he might be able just to take that away.
I think you're absolutely right. The undercut seeming very powerful here in Austria, especially on the F125 platform. We're watching with Runes here, and you can really tell the difference between a controller and a wheel player, the ability to flick the steering wheel in should you have that level of control within your vehicle. And Runes just having to take it somewhat more relaxed, a little bit more, well, I don't want to call it a casual driving style, but more flowing style that we see from some Formula One drivers, as opposed to very aggressive turning that others like here. We're still on this battle, though, for 3rd place, where Stepney Luke still holds 3rd place. He's still got Thompson for company. A little bit of a move there, potentially. I think we are seeing Dewey just getting out the way. And that is the laps car down in 13th place, just pulling out the way. And, you know, not necessarily the finest point to find them on the circuit through turn 3, but does the best they probably could have asked for. Didn't interrupt the battle in any way, shape, or form. We are seeing Chewy now 1.8, well, 1.7 now, 1.8 seconds off the back of this 3-way scrap. And Adam Thompson also just teetering over that 1 second window, so might have to burn a little bit of battery to get themselves back and close and comfortable within that DRS range, because there's no bout of DRS now until we get down to the exit of turn 10. So he's got to be careful. The detection point coming at the exit of turn 9. We will see that through here. Runes again, just you can take that curve very aggressively, but on controller, you've got to be very wary that if the car steps out on you, you've got limited control to try and save it. Proven already into the pits then at the end of lap 9 onto lap 10. It's a very, very early stop.
Yeah, Proven coming in early. Possibly he could go onto the hard tyre here. Whether it make the end, it's a question. Bomber's in as well. I've got in the chat. As we have a look now, Spinzy going with Chewy, having that extra bit of run, but goes, oh, he locks the brakes and goes very, very wide. He's got to be careful now, return to the track, make sure he doesn't cut up anyone behind. But Spinzy really going for a move there on Chewy. It just wasn't quite enough, and just locking those brakes again, just those little things, it's going to hinder you. And as that's what's happened with Spinzy, he's going to have to try it all over again. 0.9 is the gap, and that's starting to close back up. So we'll have to wait and see there. But I had a little bit of intel coming in the chat from Full Damage Queen, or FDQ as we like to call her. Bomber could have had damage, we're hearing, as he gets another 3-second time penalty for those track limits once again. Yep, we've got a yellow flag in Sector 2. Not too sure what's going on there. Phoenix now has come into the pits. So has Stepney Luke. And Adam Thompson stays out. Rune's in as well. But that yellow flag has gone away. So maybe they saw the yellow and possibly thought, could there be a safety car here? That's not the case. But it's about time for some pit stops anyway.
Certainly is. Most of our medium runners onto a hard set of tyres then. It's Phoenix, Stepney Luke, Runes, Chewy, and Edward G. Fleming all making their way in towards pit road. And I wonder how much of this from Phoenix was to try and cover off, Proven maybe going for the undercut here as we watch Spinsy, who probably will be a little bit caught aback by his earlier attempt in towards the third corner. We do see Bomber making his way up to 10th through Edward G. Fleming into the pits.
I think Phoenix got held up in the pit lane. Phoenix is down to 4th. He came into the pit lane P1, and Adam Thompson now in the lead. I think Adam Thompson pitted at the same time, so whether Phoenix got held up from other cars, I'm not too sure. If that is the case, it's game on.
I thought that Thompson hasn't pit yet. I don't know if we're able to get tyres up on the screen just to see what life we've got, see what every individual driver is running at this moment in time, but as far as I was aware, Phoenix still came out of pit road as a net race leader. I'm sure we'll get that confirmed to us in the next few moments. But Stepney Luke still now in 6th place, Proven in 5th. And we know Spinsy, I think, hasn't come into the pits yet, unless I'm completely wrong in everything I'm saying. There we go. Yeah, top 3 yet to pit at the moment. So that would be Phoenix still net race leader with Proven net 2nd, Stepney in 3rd, with Runes in 4th. Hog Devil Dog, of course, I think starting on the harder compound of tyres, so we'll have the opportunity to go a little bit longer as we see Chewy in for their 2nd stop of the afternoon already. After only 11 laps of racing, Hog Devil Dog in to all make their 1st of the day. But yeah, the top 3 yet to make a pit stop here. Potentially starting on that hard compound tyre. Oh no, it's mediums for both Thompson and KS Pryor. So just going long here, maybe in hopes of a mid-race safety car, I can only imagine.
That's what they're going to be hoping for. Sorry about that. That was my brain thinking that Adam Thompson did come in. But yeah, what we're seeing there then is they're going on to the hard, hopefully trying to make it to the end of the Grand Prix if possible, or maybe putting on a scrub set of softs near the end, especially, yes, if there is a safety car, could be banking on that as well. Phoenix getting past KS Pryor there, up into P3, will now be hunting down Spinsy and Adam Thompson, but we should expect them to pit. Spinsy comes in, Adam Thompson stays out for another lap. So does KS Pryor. KS Pryor now also enters pit lane. We're looking here at Runes and Stepney Luke, though. Battle for what is net P3 and P2. Looking at it here, you can see Runes getting closer. Not quite enough, though. It does have the RS advantage compared to Stepney Luke because of that detection point, so that's going to help him. But they both have quite a bit of battery now after pitting, so we are going to probably see some moves. We look at Runes there, had a bit of a look, thought, nope, not going to dive into turn 3 there. He probably will have a go down now on this straight.
Absolutely right, in towards turn 4, maybe thinking about a move. I think he's just too far back on this occasion. Bomber gets past KS Pryor in towards turn 3. Little bit of a snap of oversteer from KS Pryor, trying to apply the power a little bit too early on board of that Formula 1 car. I've got my strategist hat on here, George. I'm just going through potentially what some of the strategies could be. We said the one stop is in theory possible. It requires a level of tyre saving, so it depends whether drivers have that in their wheelhouse in order to try and maintain the tyre life as best they can. The alternate strategies, though, would be that 2-stop. 2 runs on the hard tyre, 1 stop on the medium. First pit around lap 10, next will be around lap 23. So maybe we are going to see that second stop, a second set of hard tyres for most of our drivers in about 9 or so laps time, as we saw a yellow flag very briefly. That was just Dewey getting out of the way once again of our lead pack. They make their way through turn 10 to start on to lap 14, or potentially lap 15 of the race, depends when the time is ticks over. No, lap 14 of the race for these drivers in KS Pryor. Now well and truly on the back of Bomber in towards the first corner, but goes wide. And that might open up an opportunity for Edward G. Fleming here on the run up towards turn 3. Keep an eye through the little kink of turn 2. They'll run. The DRS is open on Fleming's car. KS Pryor goes deep, but look at Fleming. Tries to go around the outside. He left the outside open. Here comes Edward G. Fleming with a drive out of turn 3. What a stunning move we just saw from KS Pryor, with surely some battery burn being used there. Gets the advantage. Late on the brakes goes Fleming in towards turn 4. This time gets the position made. What a fantastic move from Fleming there. Caught KS Pryor napping out of turn 3, but into turn 4. Claims that position back.
Puncher!
You see Adam Thompson here. Puncher on the rear right.
He's had a knock with the wall by the looks of it, and he's back into the pit lane. What a shame for Adam Thompson. He was having such a good race. I would love to know what happened there, but he's going to be open for safety car now. It's a pit stop that he's been needed. Maybe actually he didn't pit, so maybe the tyres reached that window where they were going to start to pop, and he's just gone that little bit too long. That's probably what happened. That's the last thing Adam Thompson would needed. But no, KS Pryor, Edward Fleming, what a move! What a good battle! Down into turns 2 and 3. We look at Edward Fleming again now. He's going to have a look at Bomber. What can Edward Fleming do? He's going to go for that lunge again into turn number 3. Locks up on the brakes, gets the apex round. Bomber hits him in the rear. There's contact once again. Bomber has got damage on that front wing end plate though. That's going to hinder him, but it gives Fleming a little bit of a boost there running down the back straight. Fleming up into P6. My oh my, this race is starting to heat up.
You're absolutely right. We said that one-stop strategy, I'm going back to Edward Thompson here, was requiring pitting around lap 16 if they wanted to try and maintain it. 15 laps is roughly the laps until puncture on those mediums, and Adam Thompson, I think, has found out the hard way just how much damage a puncture can do to your race. He drops down to what is 9th place now, with options that he's, again, either got to go for a late pit stop, maybe onto the soft tyres if he wants the double, or try and go late on the tyres and hope for not a second puncture in this race. KS Pryor, though, gets past Bomber once again. We didn't quite see where Bomber got the move back, but it will be assumptions through turn 7 into turn 8. But KS Pryor back into 7th on the grid at the moment. But 1.8 seconds, now might wait at nearly 2, off the back of Edward G. Fleming, who's had the most audacious of last laps.
Well, that's it. We're looking at Runes now on the run to Stepney Luke, still a little bit too far away to make a move. But Edward Fleming, last couple of laps, my oh my, really is sending it and is taking no prisoners. If he wants to get through, he will get through. And if you're in the way, he will just try and get you out the way, it seems. That is hard racing. And I think with the moves that he's had, it's been brilliant. But we did see a few lockups, though. We got to take that into the account. That's not good for the tyres. You lock it up, it starts to square off the tyre, and you're going to see that wear come through. You're going to feel it in the wheel with the vibrations where it's just hitting that flat spot. So it's not going to feel great for Edward Fleming, but hopefully he can burn a bit more of that tyre off, and it starts slowly becoming back a round tyre rather than a bit of a square.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think thankfully for a lot of our drivers here and both the esports professionals who do a lot of tyre locking around this circuit, flat spots aren't necessarily most simulated inside of F125, so it will, as you said, contribute towards the tyre wear in overall totality. Thankfully though, they won't be flintstoning it and driving on square tyres. Yellow flag in the final sector. That again I believe is Jimmy just stopping at the exit of turn 9. Not quite sure what's happened on board there, but we see KS Pryor now, who has caught back up the back of Edward G. Fleming. That was about a 2-second deficit just a lap or so ago. So I wonder if something's happened to Edward in the laps that we haven't necessarily been looking here. But into turn 4, KS Pryor looking for a move around the outside. Is he going to go for the switchback here? Not necessarily having the traction out of that corner, but this battle I think is starting to spice up here in towards turn 6 and turn 7. Round the outside, tries Edward Fleming. KS Pryor has to hold it on the inside line. They'll still open up side by side through turn 7 and in towards turn 8. Edward still holding, but a little wiggle for his car. The switchback looking potentially for KS Pryor, but not on this occasion. This time though, Edward holds the inside line, defends that inside line in towards turn 10. Did not want to have the same happen to him 2 laps in a row, but KS Pryor, I think, has got Edward G's number here on the straight down towards turn 1. The DRS open, battery being burnt, but Edward G. Fleming not allowing it to happen. Brakes late, off goes the circuit for KS Pryor, and Fleming holds the position. Both have DRS now, up towards the turn 3, through turn 2 they'll go. They're still wheel to wheel for the majority of this lap, but Edward G. Fleming defends the inside line. KS Pryor looks for the up and under, and again, they're still side by side, but contact between the two drivers on the run down to turn 4. This is going to be an entire lap where they've been side by side here, George, and this time Edward defends that inside line, cuts across the bow of the car of KS Pryor, and for the time being, it's P6 for Edward Fleming.
I hope someone is recording my face while I'm looking at this battle, because I'm throwing myself in my chair and this is incredible. But Edward Fleming, I think he had a D-rate on his battery. You can see the light on the rear wing was just flashing as we jump on board then with KS Pryor. He's starting to back off because that battery is starting to D-rate a little bit now, and he just needs to regroup that energy. But it just looked like on the straights, Edward Fleming was just losing a lot of speed. I don't know whether it was just he was letting off the throttle. I don't know what was going on. But my, oh my, won the whole lap side by side. And then we saw, obviously, Edward Fleming and KS Pryor pushing each other off the track. As Edward Fleming went off there, he's going to lose a bit of momentum. KS Pryor is going to have another little look now on the run to turn number 3. He gets on the outside. Edward Fleming's going to try and take the inside line. It's late to the brakes. They both long. There's a spin and it's contact. A half spin there for KS Pryor, hitting the side of Edward Fleming. There could be damage to that front wing. As we see that Edward Fleming trying to get the inside. He wants the inside line. It's turn number 6. They're squeezing each other, trying to stay off the track. Who's going to be last on the brakes into turn number 5? And it's still side by side. It's very likely like Lewis Hamilton, Alex Albon moment going through. There's another clear contact on the run into turn number 6 and turn number 7. And Edward Fleming again gets ahead. But here comes KS Pryor around the inside once again, pushing Edward Fleming to the side into this corner. Edward Fleming starting to derate again, trying to defend. He almost goes into the gravel. Edward Fleming just trying to cut across the track, really throw KS Pryor off. We're coming into the last 2 corners now, turn 9 and turn 10. And KS Pryor on the inside. Is he going to be able to keep it? Yeah, not quite. Edward Fleming, I think he's got off. Yes, he did. He went very, very wide onto the outside there. Edward Fleming able to keep track position. Whether he'll need to give it that gap back a little bit, not 100% sure, but I don't think we'll onto that gap kind of returns as they head into turn 1 once again.
I think he'll take the warning for that 7 days out of 7 in a week. He wants to try and stay ahead, whether by hook or by crook at this moment in time. And Rune still up in the battle for 3rd place here, right on the back of Stepney Luke. We see them just 3 tenths apart. We are aware of the battle going on for 6th and 7th on the circuit. You mentioned the rear light on these cars when they turn on. Obviously, the opportunity it actually comes on 2 occasions. Once when a driver is below 10% battery, so an indication that you have that derating that you mentioned. A second opportunity or a second turning on of that light is when the driver is harvesting energy. So they switch their battery off. They allow the rotation of the wheels to generate some more electricity within the ERS system, and that will allow them to then push out on towards the next straight. And I think that's what we're seeing from Edward Fleming here. Every time he heads in towards turn 1 and turns 3, the opportunity just to charge some battery up, derate the car through purpose, and then have the battery to burn down the straights. Yellow flag slightly further down the order. That's going to be the red car, I assume, potentially of
Chewy.
Bacon and Pancakes down. It's Chewy, you're right. Pulling off the exit of turn 4 as the leader of Phoenix just goes swiftly past them. But this battle here for 6th place and 7th is so close, as is the one for 3rd place here, George, with just over 16 laps of racing remaining. I don't think anybody is going to change this channel at the moment. KS Pryor goes for again another move in towards turn 3. We've seen this one before, folks. Which way is it going to go as we cut off the battle? See Runes trying to get the better of Stepney Luke through turn 6 and turn 7. The battle is so close behind. It's KS Pryor, who is side by side. You can tell by the timing screens. KS Pryor gets the move. Chewy is facing the wrong way on this circuit at the moment. The exit of turn 5. But this is the battle that we're watching. It's Edward G. Fleming side by side once again with KS Pryor. In towards turn 6, they'll see the stranded car. Fleming once again favours that outside line. KS Pryor tries to hold the inside, but I think the tyres are at a point now where they're starting to give up, at a massive snap from KS Pryor as the exit of turn 7 through turn 8, and in doing so loses about half a second, as we have seen Chewy disqualified, I can only assume, for parking in an unsafe location.
That's probably what it's going to be. I don't think Chewy could do a lot there. I think he was beached on the side of the track. Obviously, KS Pryor even had to back off into that corner because of the yellow flag. So you ever take under a yellow flag, that's a big no-no in Formula 1. You don't want to be doing that. Technically, both drivers should have taken themselves off the throttle a little bit if we're talking realistic. But KS Pryor is going to have another little look. Oh, it's contact as he goes for a gap that really wasn't there too much. There's contact. He's going to go for the inside. Edward Fleming there. They contact again. He almost spins. Edward Fleming is getting so tight here for P6. I think someone's going to have to get on the radio to these boys and say, calm it down. We don't want too much. We don't want too much there. Replay there, the contact on the run to turn 3. If I was in the steward's room this evening, I don't think I'd want to be there because there could be a couple of incident reports just for this. And even though it's hard racing, yes, we've got to remember you've got to leave that space. But also, if you go in for moves that doesn't quite exist, and you could ruin your race, that could really change the output.
You're absolutely right. Being a steward on a bank holiday Monday does not sound eventful in the slightest. KS Pryor giving us entertainment, though, with still 14 or 13 laps now until race end. And we are still expecting yet another pit stop, roughly around the end of this lap, to put on a fresh set of hard tyres to see us out till the end of the race. I expect probably Phoenix to go first. He has been the trendsetter in terms of pit stops. The majority of our drivers over the course of this race so far, of course, still leads by about 6 6 seconds. I apparently couldn't read there for a second, but Proven in second. He's got Stepney Luke still in company for third and fourth with Runes, and that is still a battle that is going on here. We see Bomber just on the back of Adam Thompson in towards the third corner. We go back up to Chaos Pride, and there we go. Phoenix right on schedule into pit road along with Proven for what will almost certainly be another set of the hard compound tyre.
Yeah, it probably will be the hard compound tyre now. We can see it's starting to wear a bit, so the track is really, really hot. It's starting to degrade that tyre even more than what we're probably expecting as Luke Stepney takes the net lead of the Grand Prix, but he hasn't pitted yet, so maybe he's going to try and do a little bit of a push, try and get a good gap to go into the pit lane and kind of get a little bit closer to the car's head. It comes in. Oh, that was KS Pryor having to get out of the way there of what I think was Bacon and Pancakes, who was lapped. Almost collected in blue. Again, with these blue flags, you can't sit on the racing line. It's not like GT3 racing. GT3 racing, the blue flag car can sit on the racing line. It's up to the car behind to make a safe pass. In Formula One, it means get off the racing line. You need to let these cars through. And that's something that maybe Bacon and Pancakes didn't quite do there. So that could, in hindsight, be a report there for almost having a bit of an incident with KS Pryor and not acknowledging the blue flags enough.
I think you'd be right in that fact. You see it through turn 9. It's a horrible place to come across a lapsed car, and actually it has forced KS Pryor 1.2 seconds off the back of Edward G. Fleming, wide there at the exit of turn 4, well and truly into the gravel, and I wonder how much of a beating those tyres are taking. We see KS Pryor here. Adam Thompson now joins him for company into turn 6 and through turn 7, but Thompson, I think, has gained a newfound respect for KS Pryor as he sees him well and truly within his grasp, and the question will be, is anybody going to venture into the pit at the end of this lap? Are they going to try and take these tyres just a little bit longer? Of course, if they started on the hards and went to a second set of hards, they will have the opportunity to go for mediums right at race end. That's Fleming. That's Fleming wide. That's in the wall, the exit of turn 10. Fleming's gone, so KS Pryor takes 5th, Thompson takes 6th, and Edward G. Fleming, after having the run of a lifetime to steal away 5th place from Pryor, now falls to 7th.
I wonder what has happened there to Edward Fleming. Really would like to know, because that's an absolute shame there. Maybe he's just hit the wall on the inside and it's kind of just slowed him down. Maybe he's had a bit of a half spin, not so sure. You know, could there be damage? If he's got a puncher now, that's a long way back to the pits. We're having a look then. Oh, we've cut the camera off from Adam Thompson. Looked like he was going to go for a move on KS Pryor. Thank you so much, production team, for putting us back on. It's not quite there, though, for Adam Thompson there. He got very, very close to KS Pryor, but maybe his tyres have just got a little bit more life in it. Maybe he's just able to get there. Adam Thompson, we can see he's struggling a bit from the onboard there. He's trying to catch up. Maybe he is trying to get back a bit with a bit of damage. Not too sure. We look at the penalty stream. Bomber with another 3 seconds. He's up to 9 seconds worth of penalties. Let's have a look at the other penalties while we're having a look here. And what is Phoenix and Stepney Luke? Phoenix on the fresher tyres, so he is going to have a better run on the run down the straight, but Stepney Luke's really not going to make it easy for him. However, Phoenix with the DRS advantage is able to get past. Stepney Luke just saying, okay, maybe not the best time to go for a battle there. But penalty-wise, let's just have a look. So KS Pryor is on 6 seconds. That'll be added at the end of the Grand Prix. So that's 2 penalties. Adam Thompson with 3. Hog Double Dog and Edward Fleming with 3 seconds. Bomber with 9. Dewey with 6. With Bomber, I've got to say, he's brought dishonour to us all. He's brought dishonour to his cow, is what's going on there. But, however, maybe he could claw it back on, as we've only got around 11 laps to go. Dewey gets out the way of the battle here with Adam Thompson, KS Pryor. Adam Thompson still trailing on the back, getting closer on the run into turn number 7. Can he have a go there? Not quite on this time around, but we've still got some pit stops to go, I think.
We certainly do. Within the next few moments, we talked about that battle between Phoenix and Stepney Luke just a few moments ago as we continue to watch this one. I think you're right in saying Stepney Luke just deciding that wasn't his fight to have at the moment. Phoenix had the new tyres, had the opportunity to go around the outside, and Spinsy there, taking advantage of both KS Pryor and Adam Thompson, peeling their way into pit road, of course, forced to hug the inside line through turn 9 and turn 10, and both cars successfully get their way into the pits without getting that 10-second penalty, which is so easy to do around here. You exit out at pretty much full speed, the exit of turn 9, and you have to slam on the brakes in towards the pit road and get yourself back down to that limit. But the battle has ceased for the time being. Both KS Pryor, Adam Thompson, and of course everybody else involved from that Edward G. Fleming, who is quite a notable name at this moment in time, has an opportunity just to have a breather. Maybe have a drink of water as well, because it is rather warm if we haven't mentioned it already. And if you're watching along at home, we recommend you use this opportunity to go grab a drink very quickly, because it is a very warm endeavour. But Stepney Luke now in towards the pits has one. Well, will be their final stop until race end. Proven makes their way through. Now you can see the tyres on your screen. So everybody has completed what will be their final pits, maybe with the exception of Dewey here. Of course, 12 laps will be looking to be the ideal length to come into the pits. You won't want to go longer than 15. We saw that slightly earlier with the puncture that came the way of one of our drivers. I believe it was Adam Thompson, who found out the hard way that these medium tyres cannot do 15 laps unless you do a considerable amount of tyre saving.
Yeah, that's it. You know, we saw it in Silverstone, didn't we? With drivers trying to take the tyres just that little bit too far on that final stint. And obviously we saw the puncture down into Copse, which is one place you don't want a puncture in Silverstone. And it did happen. Obviously you were commentating on that race, Tom, so you know all about it. But now, like you said, time to take a breather, time to take a drink with the weather that we've got, which we shouldn't complain. We don't get a lot of it in the UK, so we shouldn't complain about it. But yeah, so now Adam Thompson just settling back in, just trying to recharge that battery because he doesn't have a lot of battery on there by the looks of it. Edward Fleming now wanting to try and catch up as well after that little incident down on the main straight, but is losing time. Could there be damage to the underfloor is probably what we could be thinking, because you can get damage to the floor and to the plank. We've got to remember that in this game. It's not just your front and rear wings anymore. So he's probably sat there now thinking, what can I do to get more points? What can I do to catch up? We could still see some pit stops near the end. We got 7 laps of racing. I feel like it's definitely not over yet.
If you're saying it's over, I think we've got to have a re-look at the situation, because at the moment there are so many close battles. You mentioned Thompson burning his battery and almost certainly trying it back within the DRS of KS Prior, which will allow him a couple of laps just to recharge that battery and actually then go for the move. But I have to point out, High Priest over in the Twitch chat points out a very good point. Rune's undercut worked very well. They've made themselves up to 3rd place, albeit with Stepney Luke on fresher tyres for race end. We're on 7 laps to go here in the Austrian Grand Prix for round 4 of the BFBS Pro League here on F125. And the battles that we've seen, left, right and centre, almost into every single corner, albeit there's only 10 of them on this Austrian circuit, have been fantastic. And we've got so many more laps to go. This is not over yet, and we are sitting here baking pancakes on the back of, I believe, well, a car that he is lapped by, but making their way nonetheless up into turn 3. We see here Runes, 10 seconds to the deficit of Proven, who in turn is 7 seconds to the deficit of Phoenix. Phoenix has had one of the most almighty race leads of the season so far. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, should we? Unless we see, of course, an easy mistake.
Well, no, that's it. Phoenix will now be thinking about last week. He had this kind of lead in Singapore. We've got to remember that as Dewey now enters the pits for his pit stop. But we've got to remember, Phoenix had this type of gap going around Singapore and then entered pit lane and got that penalty. Obviously, he's come into the pit lane. He's got fresh tyres on. He shouldn't need to pit again. As we have a look at Adam Thompson now getting past Chaos Pryor, able to get past Chaos Pryor now, probably starting to think, what can I do? What can I do? Am I going to go for a long? No, he's going to stay behind, get the DRS advantage, because he will have DRS down this back straight here. He has got a little bit more battery by the looks of it as well, so we'll be able to use that. Bit too far for an overtake this lap, but I could expect that gap to close just that little bit. He is on the medium tyre, though. We do have to remember that. And at this point in the Grand Prix, if he hasn't pitted, they are going to start screaming for help, because they will not go to the end of this Grand Prix if they are old tyres, I wouldn't think. But Phoenix now, head down, focus on what he's doing, no mistakes, and maybe he'll get redemption for Singapore last week.
And he's certainly hoping so. And we mentioned earlier, everybody has made what will be their final pit stop of the afternoon. I think the oldest tyres at the moment were about 4 laps old. And that was the front runners who have pitted onto the hard compounded tyre. One thing we haven't really mentioned in totality here is safety cars, the possibility of it. My understanding would be it would be to the end of lap 33 that we have a possibility of Bert Mylander making an appearance here in the Styrian Hills, but it has been unlikely. The racing, whilst it has been, you know, I don't want to call it aggressive, but rubbing his racing is probably the best way to describe it. As KS Brian locking the rears into turn 3. A little bit of a Brown Krauser moment, I think, for KS Pryor there, who sits in 7th. But we mentioned that, you know, the racing's been aggressive, but it's been fair racing at the end of the day for the most part. We haven't seen any drivers hitting the walls, albeit very few and far between here on this circuit. That's a massive spin from Thompson. And a reset to track as well. Wow, that opens up the door. KS Pryor swoops on through. Thompson, I think, had damage. There was certainly some front wing missing from his car. and that's going to hurt his race tenfold unless we see a safety car up. But a yellow flag's been cleared. The driver is on his way. KS Pryor will be counting his lucky stars that he's been gifted, essentially P6. If we get a replay, exactly what happened, you can see just there, loses the rear on power at the exit of what will be turn 4. And yeah, just really unfortunate moment there for Adam Thompson into the pits, almost certainly to get that front wing replaced, because it is so difficult to drive around this circuit if you're missing the key aerodynamics on these Formula 1 cars.
Oh, so unlucky for Adam Thompson. First a puncture in the first part of the race, and now a spin, losing it at the rear on his what would have been his last stint. This pit stop really is not what he needed. That spin, most certainly not what he needed in this Grand Prix. What a day to forget, unfortunately, for Adam Thompson, considering he had clawed his way back up a little bit. So really big shame. But yeah, it's the nature of this track. A little bit onto the grass, puts the power down a bit too much, and he spun. But that reset track might be looked at by the stewards, because if I'm aware, you can't do that. So it might get looked at.
That's my understanding as well, but look at this, the battle for the last position on the podium. Stepney Luke to the inside of turn 3, still trying to hang around the outside as Runes, though. He's not giving up the fight. We get a little bit of a jump back there, but Runes right to the extremities of the exit of turn 3. They'll run down towards turn 4 now. The opportunity, the DRS in the favour of Runes to the outside once again he favours, but no battery, I think, being burned by Stepney Luke to the inside, tries to hold it, barely along and side enough to count that as an overtake attempt, but still side by side they run in towards turn 6. Stepney Luke trying to swing around the outside of the double left-hander here, off to the gravel, and surely that is race or battle over for the time being. You can see a replay on the right-hand side of your screens as to what went on there in towards the third quarter, but as the laps continue to dwindle down here, we're heading on to 3 to go. Stepney Luke has only got a limited number of opportunities, just over 30 corners to contend with, should he wish to end up on this podium.
Absolutely, that is a battle for the ages there now, isn't it? Just watching these cars going toe to toe with 3 to go. It seems his Runes has a little bit of a run, a little bit more of a run up into turn 3. Stepney Luke hanging back a bit. Is he going to go for a lunge into the hairpin? No, staying behind. And it's not going to go yet. Opens DRS again onto the back straight, using that overtake mode, trying to drain the battery just a little bit more. Into turn number 4. It's getting close. It's all there, touching tyres, but able to keep it on the circuit and keep within the white lines. It's just hard racing. That's absolutely fine. I don't think wheel-to-wheel contact should be looked at. So as they come around the corners, and Stepney Luke just hanging back a little bit more now, waiting for the DRS strip. We have got blue flags ahead. That blue flag car of duty moves out the way as they run into the last couple of corners. What are we going to see coming into these last few laps? We're on the penultimate lap of this Austrian Grand Prix, and it's still heating up. We look at Stepney Luke on the run, opens DRS. Is he going to have a look? He goes side by side with Runes then, takes P3, but he's got to remember there's another DRS straight coming up. Runes will have the benefit going up onto the run into the hairpin. This is really spicing up.
It certainly is. DRS now in the favour of Runes up towards turn 3. The battery's being burnt shortly on both cars now as they run up towards the tight right-hander. But again, another DRS opportunity late on the brakes. So Stepney Luke into turn 3, forcing them side by side on the run down to turn 4. We've got just under 8 kilometres to go here in this race at the moment. 2 to the checkered flag. Stepney Luke knows his time is now, looks late on the brakes. But Phoenix, we've jumped to the front. We've still got an entire lap of racing to go here as he comes around the final corner, or what will be the penultimate corner to start lap 36. The battle further back is Stepney Luke that takes P3 at the moment. Runes will have to settle for 4th as we head on to the final lap of racing. We cut back to this race here. It's still side by side, still exhilarating action between the two drivers, but the question will be here, which driver is going to end up on that podium? Phoenix has already planted himself at the top, proven will surely take home P2. Runes now, with 1 lap to go here in this race, will have an opportunity to try and drag his way back onto the podium as well, in towards turn 1, the DRS opportunity. Not necessarily the greatest overspeed here for Runes, up towards turn 3 now, through the little kink of 2. The opportunities are dwindling more and more as we continue
Runes
to count down the corners. It is a penalty. Runes has got a penalty, you're right. So this will be a question if Runes might take it on track, but he won't necessarily get it on the podium. We switch back now to Phoenix with half a lap to go. They say the Red Bull Ring in many aspects is like a phoenix that emerged from the ashes. It was destined to be a permanent closure before Red Bull Racing bought it and revived it for the 2014 season and coming home to win it here in BFBS Pro League. It is Phoenix and his namesake here. He wins in Austria.
Wonderful racing. Phoenix rising from the ashes again to rise like a phoenix. We go back on with Stepney Luke and Runes though. Runes half a second to Stepney Luke will now take it on track. Must have been, there was an overtake then just after the cameras cut away. But what a race. Stepney Luke will take his second podium in 2 successive races and comes home P3. Runes will stay P4 with that penalty. Spinsy will come home in P5. We look at KS Pryor now, 16 seconds away from Spinsy. All he has to do is keep it on the track. Gets a little bit of gravel there, I think, but it should be absolutely fine. He stays within the track there. Spinsy home P5, and then we see KS Pryor and Edward Fleming. They'll come home P6 and P7. Bomber P8, Hog Devil Dog P9, Adam Thompson comes home 10, Bacon and Pancakes 11, Chewy 12, with Chewy and CB8 disqualified from the race. But my, oh my, what? Oh, a little bit of a slide there by Edward Fleming coming out of the last couple of corners, and he does it again there as well. Sliding on the runoff. Luckily, there's no one behind to overtake him. Just able to slide it across the line. But my, oh my, what a race.
Just showboating to the fans at the exit of turn 10 there was Edward G. Fleming as he came home in 7th place. We said this right before the show started, right before the race even got going, that Austria was going to be one of those. It was either going to be a snooze fest and just DRS overtakes, or it was going to be probably one of the best races that we've seen this season. I'd argue it's in the latter camp so far. It's certainly up there for one of the best races that we've seen. But it was Phoenix, as you said, rose from the ashes here today to claim victory. And Stepney Luke, 2 from 2 in terms of podiums. And that's a P1 and a P3 in both appearances. So nothing to be joked about at all, and sets him up rather well. We head into the second half of the season. Of course, we're only 4 rounds through this 8-round calendar. There's still 4 more rounds to go. Lots of opportunities for our drivers to pick up points. Lots of opportunities for our drivers to pick up wins. And that's all coming at you in the next few weeks. But Phoenix, your race leader and fastest lap as well. Austria, once again, is one for the history books.
Austria delivers, doesn't it? We always said this. Austria does deliver, and it's done it again. It's just those battles we kept seeing, especially with Runes and Adam Thompson, and then everyone really. Everyone had a little bit of a fight. Even Phoenix at one point had a bit of a fight to come around. But it has been an incredible race, and I must admit, I think I do need to lie down after this one as well, even if it is partly the heat that's making me want to do that.
Yeah, it was a hot enough race even before coming into it, and they added a whole new level of spice to it. And I can confirm it is rather warm in this office, probably more than it was at the start of this race. Water has been consumed throughout the entirety of that race, albeit I had a bottle for qualifying, and I've almost finished a bottle in the race as well. So that's how much we've been doing in terms of action that has happened on the circuit. But we have to talk about Phoenix here. Literally, from right at the start of the race, didn't look back and just went.
Absolutely. You know, and that's what Phoenix has done all season. He's started at the front, kept his cool, and gone. The minute those lights went out, he was gone. He had that little bit of a battle at the start, but then mistake from behind just allowed him to carry on going. So that is what we've seen. That is what Phoenix does. He is in a real good spot now to take the championship. And that's saying it at round 4. What are we going to expect over the next few rounds? Could this be the rise of the Phoenix? As we have been saying, it's only our first season on F125. You know, coming into the next few seasons, when we start, especially with the new 26 DLC coming in tomorrow, maybe the next few seasons and these new cars come around, could someone else take it? But for this season now, I think Phoenix might have just proven why he's there.
I think you're absolutely right. We'll talk about all of the events that happened over the course of this race, and of course a look ahead to next week's Grand Prix in just a few moments. But don't touch that dial, folks, because we will be right back. Well, welcome back, one and all. What a race we've just seen in the Styrian Hills, the Austrian Grand Prix. Well and truly one for the history books here in the BFBS Pro League. But now our attention turns to reflecting on what we've just seen, and we can't really talk about, the victories that came accustomed to the race. Obviously, we saw Hog Devil Dog. He mentioned in the Twitch chat, first ever top 10 for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Hog Devil Dog last week was a race to forget for him. I think he did say he wasn't taking any prisoners because he didn't know the track very well pre-race last week. But this week, did not fair play. With the disqualifications as well, that's helped him out a little bit. But I think on credit, I didn't see really any problem or any kind of issue from Hog Devil Dog. He just kept his head down and got a top 10 finish. Absolutely amazing. Really good to see. But that race, absolutely incredible, wasn't it? I think it's probably one of the races that we can look back on at the end of the season and go, wow, that race was impressive.
It certainly was. And I think one at the end of round 8, we'll look back and go, actually, Austria was a really fantastic race. I think some highlights, if we don't see highlights of that up on YouTube or socials, I'd be disappointed because that was fierce battles for 36 laps. But we have got some standings to bring you, totaling up how everybody sits at the end of round 4. It's 25 points going to the name of Phoenix, and I think these are just race points, not including the qualifying points. Of course, 3 for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third. But Proven did take home second place in the end, apparently with an identical time to Phoenix. It was Stepney Luke who finished in third. It was Runes in fourth, Spinsy who finished home in fifth, with KS Pryor taking home sixth. Edward G. Fleming finished off 7th place, with Bomber in 8th. 9th goes to Hog Devil Dog. And Adam Thompson, after both a puncture and wing damage in that race, comes home to take a singular point. Now, one that come season end, he'll probably end up dropping.
Yeah, that's it. With Bacon Pancakes 11th, Chewy 12th, and then Chewy and CB8 disqualified due to incidents that we're still to see kind of what fully happened, especially with CB8. But yeah, that he probably will drop the point at the end of the season just for the pure fact. Maybe it's a race to forget for Adam, especially if he doesn't miss any of the remaining races. That is probably something that he will try and drop. But it is a shame because Adam, like we said, again, in the last few races, he's really shown that he has the pace and is able to kind of get up there and really have a good battle. But this week, just those little mistakes have cost him some really big points.
It really has. And those minor mistakes that happen over the course of a race, and, we saw 2 quite big ones in the end for Adam Thompson there, really led to his demise. He was running for some really solid points. We saw him right at the end drop the car at the exit of turn 4. And, of course, all the way down to 10th place after having to get the front wing replaced. But, thankfully for him, he can get 1 round dropped at the end of those 8 races. So it might be, in the end of, when all's said and done, he can forget about Austria in both the physical and the metaphorical sense. But we look ahead to next week's race. We go from one race that is incredibly high speed and has been on the calendar for years and years and years, dating back, of course, to 1964, to a track that's slightly more new on the Formula One calendar and, defines Formula One as a star-studded element of entertainment when we head to Las Vegas.
Yeah, Las Vegas up next. Some people call it the upside down pig. I can see it, but no, it really is a really good track. It came into the calendar in 2022, and it's always provided extremely close and very, very exciting racing. I found while watching it. Memorable moment. I think the best one to kind of go by was Carlos Sainz in the first practice session when Las Vegas came in. That manhole cover ripping a hole into the underside and having to it stopped that practice session entirely, delayed second practice. All the teams then having to scramble to get this tighter schedule in because obviously they didn't have as much time as they normally would. But then, we have seen some really incredible racing down here. And of course, the best part of the track for me, going down the Las Vegas Strip on the run into I think it's turn 13. And you see everything. You see all the hotels and all the attractions that you'd normally see in Vegas. It is one spectacle you cannot miss on the calendar, even if you have to get up at 6 a.m. for the real race. Luckily, you don't have to here.
Very much so. Of course, that will be broadcast at the normal time of 19:30 for those of you in the UK. And if you're not in the UK, do your conversions for all your time zones abroad. But you mentioned the the spectacle of running down the boulevard past the Las Vegas Sphere as well. What a sight that is to see these modern day Formula One cars just passing through such iconic pieces of furniture within the Las Vegas skyline. It has been one to look forward to, and will be one to look forward to, both next week and, of course, for the 2026 Las Vegas Grand Prix, which will be the end of that season. But a time comes at the end of every show that we have to say goodbye. George, any closing remarks that you'd like to add in from your side?
I think it's time for a lay down, to be honest with you. After that, try and cool off a bit, because throwing myself around this chair has made it increasingly hotter. But I think if this is what this race was, what's to come is just going to get even better.
Certainly is. It's the one you don't want to miss, folks. It is the Las Vegas Grand Prix over in Nevada. George has been fantastic. Check him out over that way. I can't point at Poundlander1201. Check myself out. They call me TK as well. It'd be fantastic. But until next time, we'll see you very soon.